Well, we're very excited, like I'm sure most programs around the country, about getting ourselves started. We feel like we have some very, very good returning players with experience, and then also a lot of guys who are either true freshmen or redshirt freshmen who we have high hopes for, and we think can have can have very good careers. So we're looking forward to start practice and getting the season underway. Obviously, the trip to Italy and Switzerland we think will be will be very beneficial to us as we go through the season. So we're just excited to get started.
In what way is that trip beneficial?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number one, you get to have 10 practices or 10 days of practice before you go. So it gives you the opportunity of, that doesn't sound like very many maybe, but it gives you the opportunity to really compete, put some things in. We were able to bring our freshmen, including our redshirts. We have 5 freshmen. So give them as much opportunity to play, scrimmage, learn as anything. And the second part of it is the actual trip, where not only do we get to play games, but to travel and to be with your teammates, and the camaraderie that's developed over the course of time is just, you really can't value it enough, because it's just that opportunity. Those guys are spending 24 hours a day together, experiencing a different culture, learning new things, but doing it all while together. So I think it'll pay big dividends, on the floor for us and kind of in the locker room.
Coach, a year removed from the conference championship, not picked as high as some other teams. Do you take much stock into the A10 predictions?
Well, not really. I mean, we've never really paid much attention to that here. It really doesn't matter. I think this year, especially with 16 teams, 2 teams who most of the conference is not familiar with, it's that difficult. I think maybe we had 6 or 7 teams in the top 100 RPI last year. You don't know what to make of certain schools, like the new teams coming in. So I don't think it really means that much. Certainly, it's interesting to read and whatnot, but I don't think we make very much about it.
Hey, Chris, could you speak to the importance of keeping Derrick Williams healthy and out of foul trouble, and given the preponderance of veteran guards you have, but not a great deal of experience inside?
Yeah, that is going to be important. I think Derrick, I think his game, number one, has improved tremendously. He's extremely talented. I think a lot of people will be surprised this year by all the things he can do on the basketball court. He's not just a very physical player. He's very well-rounded, very skilled. And so it will be important to make sure that he's not in foul trouble, or when he is, how we kind of deal with that, making sure that he's continuing to be in the game, to see action, because he's such a big part of our team this year. So that will be important, John, and I think, his improvement hopefully will result in fewer fouls. Just a sense for the game, his reputation preceding him a little bit more, all those things hopefully result in fewer games with foul trouble.
Hey, if I could dovetail off that and ask about Alonzo, and if he's eligible to practice starting on Friday.
Well, yes, he's eligible to practice, and myself and Mr. Miller and David Walsh sat down, and then that went up through the chain to make sure that he'd be able to practice with us starting this Friday.
And is there any new status regarding his eligibility for games?
There's no new status, because at this point there's not any information nor games, so there's no new status right now.
Coach, do you have questions about your team that you'd like to see answered first few weeks of practice? With the new rules, well, first with the trip when we were allowed to practice, and then with the new rules, which enables you to be around your team a lot more than before, I don't have quite as many questions. I mean, for practice, my questions will come in the games, just to see if we're inexperienced up front. And so we have Derrick and Greg Robbins up front, but everybody else is going to be inexperienced. So, in practices, that doesn't show up as much, or doesn't mean as much. But in the games, that could start to mean something. So because we've had so much time together, I don't have that many questions for now. But once the games start, then that's when we'll start to have questions about,
can our younger guys play well, contribute in a positive way, and when they don't, can our veteran guards and Derrick and Greg carry us? So that'll be kind of the two main questions that we see, especially in the early part of the year.
In an ideal setting, how much would you hope to expect out of the second half of that bench, all those guys down at the end that were watching in street clothes last year?
Yeah, well, a lot, to be honest with you. Alonzo is a really, really talented player who's a great athlete, can do a lot of things well, and I think he'll have a real opportunity to help us. Trey Davis he's like an impact player because all of the things that he's good at show up in the game. He's tough, he's strong, he goes after the ball, he's not intimidated. So those things I think make Trey kind of not like a typical freshman. And then I think Luke Piotrowski is really getting better and better every day. So we hope, I don't think you can compare redshirting those guys from, what they would have done last year to what they would have done this year. It's more what they're going to do their senior year, their junior and senior year. But I do think that redshirting them will enable them to get off to really good starts to their career.
Coach, can you talk about any reaction that you've received with Dana O'Neill's piece coming out yesterday?
Yeah, actually, I've gotten a ton of reaction, certainly from family and friends, but I've gotten a lot of emails and notes all emails from just strangers, people who've read the article and maybe they lost a family member. Just really, really, it was a really well done piece and really nice, and people have been, very nice to me about it.
Chris, it sounds as if Greg Robbins is going to have, you hope, more of an interior contribution than in past years. Can you share your thoughts about that?
Well, I think, John, he's a versatile player. We really try to recruit versatile players, and I think you'll see that more and more this year. I think he's probably capable of playing. He could probably get some minutes in the backcourt, but with our needs this year, I think he'll have the option to play more, or we'll give him the opportunity more to play up front. When Ryan Butler was here, we would often finish the games with him and Kevin Smith kind of as the forward, so kind of two small forwards. So your ball handling's better. And I think Greg's tough enough player that he's going to be able. He could play kind of any position, and the physicality of playing up front won't bother him at all.
Hey, with so many guards that have played and are talented and have experience, would the shape of what you do change on either end? More defensive pressure, full court, run more offensively?
Yeah, that's a great call, John. Like you were in the meeting yesterday. Yes, both of those things. We think we'll probably extend our defense a little bit, and then we really feel like we could be a good team running. With Cedric, I think is exceptional with the ball in the open court. Kendall and Darian are two, very, very good shooters. We do have versatile players in that Greg can handle the ball, Wayne can handle the ball, Derrick can we're not limited in terms of if we run, it has to be a certain way. So we think that we could put some pressure on teams by using our athleticism and getting out and running and being a little bit more of an open court team.
Is there a starting lineup you have in mind at this point, a rotation or?
Probably. Well, when we went to Italy, we started Ced, Darian, Greg, Derrick Williams, and Alonzo. And right now, we were 3-0 in Italy, so. No, so right now I think that's what we go with. That means bringing Kendall off the bench and something he's comfortable with. I think Kendall's one of the best players in the conference, so it wouldn't have anything to do with that. Just maybe what he could provide is that much more special off the bench than if we brought somebody else off the bench whose strengths were more being solid. I think Kendall providing that spark that he does, might be. Now, of course, those things can change, but I think that's what we're looking at right now.
Have you talked to your players at all about how much different the conference will be with the additions, and not not only on the court, but the attention now that the conference will get nationally?
Yeah, a bit. I think these guys are obviously aware of VCU coming in, and that's such an exciting thing for everybody. Butler also coming in off of incredibly successful seasons. So we've talked about how deep the conference is. 16 teams is a whole lot of teams, and it's hard to find anyone that's not a good program with good history, good coaching. So we've talked to our guys about that. I think they have an understanding about it. For me, the most frustrating thing is to only play everybody once, besides VCU. Last year we played Dayton the last game of the year here. That was the first time we saw Dayton. That's just a little unnatural for a college basketball season. But, you can't argue with the talent and the depth and the tradition of the schools in the conference.
Hey, Chris, is this the toughest schedule since you've been here?
It might be, John. I think that, on paper, the schedule we had in 2011, maybe jumped out at you a little bit more. Seton Hall, Wake, Purdue. So I think that one jumped out, but that didn't, in the end, it didn't pan out as much. But I think, when you get beyond Kansas and Minnesota, Wake, and then we still have, Davidson, who's a great team, Ohio U, who's in the Sweet 16, Old Dominion is always great, especially there. Then putting that on top of, I would assume, the most challenging conference schedule that we've had, I would probably say for all 31 games, yes, it is.
Coach, just one more question about the Dana article. I know as a basketball team, everyone who's involved with the team, you kind of feel like a family. Can you talk about just, what you felt at that time as your duty as a head coach? I wouldn't say I felt like that. I just, it was an exceptionally shocking and painful thing for Robin, and we all just tried to rally around and do what was best for her. I think that college basketball programs talking about family and being such is great, and all sports teams or all athletic teams within the department. But in that moment or during that time, I just think we were, it was really a horrible thing that happened, and we all just tried to chip in and do whatever we could to make sure that she would be okay, or as kind of good as she could be, both in the short term and the long term.
Is any of what you did for her reflective of what Coach Kirill might have done for you in some way when you first showed up at Princeton?
Well, I wouldn't have wanted to live with him, that's for sure. Right. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that you naturally have a responsibility that you're, kind of publicly you're the face of the program, and internally you're kind of you're the head of the program. And so, yeah, I think so. I think Coach Kirill was a figure that we just had such immediate respect for, not only what he had accomplished, but for how he taught, how he talked, what he kind of believed in. That those kinds of things, to this day, I think about every day. So, yeah, I think that there's definitely some similarities.
Can I just ask you, Derrick Williams, his internship or whatever it is with the football team on the sidelines, it's funny seeing a guy 6'9" carrying cables. I saw you at the last football game. Just comment about that and how good it is to see your guys kind of helping out.
Right. Well, I think 3 times Coach Rocco tried to put him in. So we'll have to talk to him about that. Our guys have been involved, and I think it's great, because sometimes we want to support our other programs here, and Derrick and some other guys, I think, said, Wayne also work at the football game. So I think it's great. I think it shows, more than anything, just shows at Richmond, it's a pretty special place where, guys are getting along with one another, the teams are getting along with one another, they're friends, and then beyond that, they're also interning and working within the athletic department, helping promote their, in sports information, helping promote their friends. So I think it's a pretty special thing.
Anything else?
Chris, any health issues holding back Spiders at this time? No?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.